On June 16, 2008, Caylee Anthony was last seen alive. 31 days later, she was reported missing by her grandmother. Since that time, the fate of this young child and the arrest and trial of her mother, Casey Anthony, for murder has captivated the nation. Then, this week, a verdict was reached that stunned America. Not guilty on all the major counts that were brought against Casey Anthony, and only guilty of misleading the police. And then her sentence that will set Casey Anthony free on July 17th of this year, 2011. The Casey Anthony trial, verdict, and sentence has been at the center of a media and public frenzy that will likely continue for some time as events continue to unfold. And it is this media attention that should be of concern to all of us. First, and perhaps most sad, children in America and around the world are abused, go missing, and are killed all of the time. This is one of the most hideous but true facts that we are forced to grapple with when we are thinking about the death of Caylee Anthony. Only a very small percent of these cases are given more than local attention. Every once in a while, circumstances come together and a missing child becomes a larger story, and in a very few cases become as large as Caylee and Casey Anthony have become. It should come as no real surprise that this is a white child and mother, for this is not supposed to happen in white America. A black family, perhaps. Hispanic families, maybe. And if an Arab child is killed by its mother or father, really no surprise at all. This is at the core of the sick thinking that has engulfed America and much of the world, especially in the past years since 9/11, Osama bin Laden, and Al-Qaeda. As the investigation, arrest, and trial of Casey Anthony unfolded, True TV, CNN, and other media outlets could not wait to pull together their panel of experts and other talking heads to dissect each and every twist. Blogs, call-in shows, breaking coverage, and social media jumped into the fray as well. Almost immediately, it was clear that the vast majority of pundits were leaning towards, if not outright having decided, the guilt of Casey Anthony before the trial even got underway. This is especially true of the True TV network, with the host of shows like In Session blatantly hijacking the case and forcing their own view down the throats of anybody watching. And the viewers, unfortunately, all too often eagerly swallowed what they were being force-fed. The problem is, all too often, the search for truth is not even on the list of priorities for the media. Their goal, in some cases their only goal, is to improve their ratings so that their jobs and shows won't disappear. They have a vested interest in staying on the air. And the best way to drive up ratings and stay on the air is to be as sensational as possible. So over and over you hear about the duct tape, the grandfather in tears, and the meter reader's suspect handling of Caylee's remains. On top of this list of sensational hype is, of course, the bizarre behavior and bizarre attitude of Casey Anthony. And in fairness, to me, much of what she did and did not do seems to be seriously off the wall. However, as with the rest of the world, including the network pundits, I have never seen or heard all of the evidence for or against Casey Anthony's guilt presented in a systematic way consistent with the rules of trial law. The only people that did have this opportunity were the jury, and as far as I can tell, with nothing to the contrary to dispute it, this is a group of people who had no reason at all to set a child murderer free. No hint of misconduct was reported, and the presiding judge, Belvin Perry, apparently ran a tight enough courtroom so that his rulings have not been overly criticized in the news. For everybody but the jury, it seems as though the verdict was a foregone conclusion, with Casey Anthony's guilt proclaimed far and wide. The stunned, gasping shock and anger that has boiled over into a true hate of Casey Anthony is a glaring testament to the power of the media and their ability to influence a mob mentality. I don't know who killed Caylee, and the actions of Casey Anthony are of deep concern. I am not defending her. I am not on her side. I do, however, realize that for whatever suspicions I might have, in the end, suspicions and concern are all that there is. As a jury, 11 people had the terrible burden to choose whether or not a young woman would be sent to her death as the result of her actions. It seems as though that the jury decided that bizarre behavior and possibilities were not enough to take a second life, and this, perhaps, should be the lesson to all of us. In the end, the death of Caylee is a miserable, terrifying end to a young life. Perhaps what she will teach us is the ability to step back and not allow the pundits and experts to continue to hijack our worldview, to allow us to look at each situation as if it were a new thing, with no preconceived and perhaps even harmful misconceptions. So the next time you turn on the news or tune into Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, Pierce Anthony, or any of the others, take some time to run the experiment for yourself and see for yourself what rings true. It may sound callous, but this goes far beyond the case of one mother and her daughter. We turn to the media to make very important and long-term decisions about our world, who and what to vote for, and what direction we would like our lives to take should not be left to the face value, contrived, skewered, and perhaps wrong opinions of the current media darling pundits and their hype to keep their jobs. We should make up our own minds. Our lives, our world, our society is too important to allow it to be decided for us. We need to decide, in the end, for ourselves, where and what we want to do. On July 16th, right,